Hello, everybody, and welcome back. I guess maybe top of the morning to you. I don't have a really good Irish accent, but we're recording on St. Patrick's Day, so you may hear this. Well, you'll hear it live if you're watching on YouTube on St. Patrick's Day, but you may hear this later in the evening tonight if your podcast app updates that way. I've noticed I update on the podcast feed that I use. But I don't usually, it doesn't auto download until the weekend sometimes. So I don't know how that works for you guys as you download podcasts, but anyways, it's St. Patrick's Day as we're recording this. Tom, if you're watching from YouTube, is in the hills of Ireland somewhere. Not really Ireland, but undisclosed location, as we often say. Tom, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm absolutely doing great. So it's time is flying, dude. It's just flying.
Amen to that. I can't believe we are 2 weeks away as we record this from, well, really less than 2 weeks because the collective from GCW starts on Thursday of that week. So we're less than 2 weeks away from WrestleMania weekend kicking into full gear. No AEW pun intended there. And it's crazy. I can't believe it's 2 weeks away, and I can't believe how much hasn't been set up yet for some of those shows. And other ones that we'll talk about, I'm sure, along the way. We don't really have a huge schedule. In fact, we have very little to no schedule for this week. We're just going to kind of talk about what we're thinking about in pro wrestling, what we're excited about, what we're maybe not excited about. I don't know. And those kind of things. And Tom, I just happened to look over here. Your Eddie Guerrero shirt is still sitting here. So
well, you already said the next crate's coming, right? So like by mistake. So it's probably better that you just held on to that.
Right, because there may be a shirt in that one that you like too, and then I'll just ship more to you. Speaking of quick, hey, we're freestyling. Yesterday, some images came out from Walmart of 2 Ultimate Editions that are Walmart exclusive because they're in the Ruthless Aggression subline, I guess. But one of them was Eddie Guerrero from the '91. The world title. Did you happen to catch those yesterday?
No, I did not. No.
It looks. I haven't pre-ordered it yet, but I really want to. It looks sweet. And then the other one was Rey Mysterio, one of his many looks. Speaking of I guess figures, figures isn't the right word, but I got my Ricky Steamboat Funko Pop in this week as well. So nice. If you haven't seen those yet in the wild, I got mine from Amazon. It looks just as cool as it did in the picture. And anybody who listens to this podcast for any length of time knows I am a huge Ricky Steamboat fan. He's my all-time favorite, probably always will be. I can't imagine anybody overtaking that spot. So I was excited to get it, even though I wasn't a huge fan of the whole dragon gimmick that he did in the 90s. With WWE, it was kind of hokey, but that was early 90s WWE too. They were pretty hokey. So looks cool though as a Funko Pop. It's very toyetic, as many other podcasts will say.
And I was in the wild this week, traveling all over for work and other things, and I came across, I'm forgetting what series it is, but it's the series with the Lionheart Corleone de la, never mind, the Lionheart Mexico Jericho.
Yeah,
the
it's an unmatched series. I can't remember the number. I'd have to look it up.
Yeah. So I was able to grab that, which was pretty cool, even though like the face, because it's young Jericho, looks really weird. Like it just doesn't match. And then I grabbed the CM Punk from that series too, with like a jacket and a microphone. So I have now 2 AEW CM Punk figures. And then I don't know if you saw, they in the last week, I want to say, maybe it was the last week, maybe it was before, the images of the 2-pack with him and MJF from the dog collar match.
Yeah.
That looks amazing.
If they come out, I mean, it was just the renders, I think, that were released. If they come out actual figures looking that way, they've done pretty well with Punk. And I feel like their MJFs have been pretty good too. And, this is in kind of the I don't know if it's in the blood and gut subline that they do where there's blood on the face and that sort of thing from those types of matches like they've done with Britt Baker and Cody Rhodes and some others. But yeah, those look pretty cool. I did see, it looks like the prototype is still moving forward. He's the next one in the LJN love letter line. And that would be the next series to come up on ringside, which, given that I didn't love how the figure looks, but I've also said I'm all in on those LJN style AEW figures. So that might be my head-to-head winning from last time. I was thinking about that, and hopefully what happens last time. I don't know if you remember, Tom, as we're just kind of freestyling all over. For the first half of last season, when I also won, you got me the Darby Allin LJN style, and you paid what I believe was regular kind of, that $21-22 price for it. And then Black Friday and subsequent weeks after that, or days after that, they kept dropping the price on AEW figures. And I know you and I both ordered some at Ringside, and that sucker dropped down to like $9 or $10, I think, finally by the end of it, which is crazy. And made everybody worried that AEW was going away or the line was going away. And it doesn't, well, it's been quieter on announcements. It doesn't seem that way. So
I would imagine when we get to, pardon me, Double or Nothing, you're going to see a lot of announcements come out then.
Well, and I also think they did so many reveals because they showed so many lines that have yet to actually hit, that have come out. They kind of had to slow the roll on reveals because at this point, you got to get some of that stuff out before, Mattel's pretty good at showing you the next 3 or 4 series. They've kind of got a really good rhythm down of reveals, and obviously there's going to be big reveals Wrestlemania week for Mattel. Like I said, and there were some Superstars figure, the little Remco style Superstars figures that they've got, which my wife had, so here's a funny story for everybody. My wife had bought me the Undertaker Superstars figure around Christmas time, but it had put it in a drawer and had was saving it, for a gift at Christmas, and then forgot about it. So, we did our Christmas here and we bought some gifts, a few little small things for each other. We had a bigger gift that we bought kind of as a couple to go to a show of a comedian we like that then got canceled. And anyways, that's a story for another podcast. But, so these smaller things. So she had bought this as a smaller thing, even though it's $20. And she forgot about it, ended up in a drawer. So we were doing some cleaning out of things, and all of a sudden I'm like, what's up with this Undertaker figure? Like, just randomly, this Superstars Undertaker. She's like, oh, I bought that at Christmas. I forgot about that.
Did you think you had bought it and left it there by chance?
No, I was pretty sure I hadn't, because I haven't bought any of the Superstars. Although I think they look cool. I wish they weren't $20.
You buy things and hide them from yourself. Like,
right.
Oh, maybe one day I'll just come across this. It'll be great.
Right. It'll be awesome. I mentioned before, I listen to the Fully Posable Wrestling Figure podcast each week. And Jeff, one of the guys on there, will order things on Amazon and forget that he's ordered them. So then he'll get an Amazon box and it's like Christmas for him because he's like, oh, what did I order? Let's see what it is today. He ended up ordering, I think it was like 5 or 6 of the retro Junkyard Dogs when those were out. And he just kept getting packages with retro Junkyard Dog. And the guy doesn't even drink. So it's not like he's, getting drunk at night and ordering things. He just forgets what he orders. It's kind of funny to listen to. But no, so this was not one of those situations. That's why I told that story. But as I'm looking at it, I'm like, man, these are really cool. And I was tempted almost to open it, which is like against everything I do as far as collecting. And I was like, they would be like that style and that size figure would be cool to have like a display of like setting up a number of them, not in any poses or anything, but just on a shelf. That would be a really, and they don't have, they've got accessories that you don't have extra accessories. Like Mattel, you have extra hands and extra heads and, 2 t-shirts and whatever. So you wouldn't have all that extra stuff. It's just got, the jacket and the hat and whatever that you would have on the figure. But at this point, I haven't done that because that then becomes a slippery slope of then how many of those do I want to buy and how expensive does that start to get? Because some of them do look really cool. I was looking at the Papa Shango this week when I was in a Walmart and they look really cool. I gotta admit, I like that line. They put out a Ricky, I'll be buying that one. So anyways.
Well, I want you to know that you're not alone in that you had a spouse who bought you something and then it was unearthed later on. The same thing happened at our house. I happened to get a coffee mug instead, which is fine. It was an awesome coffee mug. But yeah, the days after Christmas, Karen was like, oh yeah, this was for you. I bought it, I hid it, and then I just found it. And then on the other end of that, I had gone shopping with the kids probably way before Christmas, and I was like, "Oh, Mom always needs hand lotions. Let's buy this. Let's get this now throw it in your closet. We'll come down to it. Well, then we did this massive cleanup during the holiday of like kind of all the kids' rooms. And sure enough, we came across the lotion. And here you go. So,
Merry Christmas. Happy
yeah.
New Year. So you never know. That's what we're saying. You might, everybody's done that, right? You clean out and you're like, I forgot I even had this. And sometimes it's, I forgot I bought this for you. Well, Tom, it's the road to WrestleMania. And
before we even get to the road to WrestleMania, which
yes,
I know is even closer, we have to go back to the end of the week last week. And
okay,
we're talking NFL football, Jim, because
absolutely.
I need to know. I didn't text you. I knew we'd come back to this this forum and have a conversation. I just need to know what is your take on the move that the Bears made, trading out of the number one spot to Carolina and acquiring tons of assets in return. And then you can carry that over into the free agent period as the NFL league year began on Wednesday.
I would like to congratulate Ryan Poles on becoming the greatest GM in the history of the NFL. I love it. Love the move. Look, the Bears weren't going to take a quarterback at number one. I know they were all, there were some rumors where they're going to trade Justin Fields and draft a quarterback, because Poles didn't draft Justin Fields and all that. Shut up. That's dumb. Nobody in their right mind. Justin Fields made good strides last year in his second year under a new coach, a new offensive system, all of those things. And the first year in the first system, anybody with eyes can tell you was an abject disaster under Matt Nagy. Now, under a new system, he made good strides. Does he have farther to go? Yes. The man, he's got to get more accurate, which is crazy because he was very accurate in college, especially on deep throws. He's got to kind of get rid of the jittery feet, but that's hard to do when you have an offensive line built of Swiss cheese. I understand why he had jittery feet and, would take off running more often than not, because he was afraid for his life behind that offensive line. They got a bona fide number one wide receiver. I mean, the guy averages 1,000 yards a season with Baker Mayfield, PJ Walker, who's now a Chicago Bear, and Sam Darnold as his quarterbacks. Justin Fields is immediately the best quarterback DJ Moore has ever played with. And I'm not saying that as a Bears fan. He is. That's not saying Justin Fields is, all world. That's just saying he's had a really crappy quarterback playing Carolina to play with and done really well. And then to get, move down to 9, get next year's number one draft pick, get 2 second-round draft picks. I mean, I thought it was a great move. I think their moves in free agency have been very strong. I think they got 2 stud linebackers in TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds. Edwards and Edmonds. That's going to be hard to say all season, but I'm going to like it. Jack Sanborn, who was a rookie last year out of Wisconsin. Of course, so that's a double love for me, being a Badger and a Bear. But he played really well. So I think those 3 at linebacker are good. Yeah, I was excited. I was very excited last night. They signed Deontay Foreman from the Panthers, which is a little funny. Like all of a sudden we're becoming Carolina Midwest. Like we've got DJ Moore, we've got PJ Walker, we got Deontay Foreman. I think we got the last 3 good players in Carolina though. So that's okay. At least we're signing the good ones. And PJ Walker, he's not all world, but he's a good backup. He's played okay, well to okay, or okay to well, I guess. And he's a little more mobile, so it makes sense to have him as a backup to Justin Fields. Trevor Siemian, a little bit more of an Andy Dalton statue last year, so you have to change your playbook then if your backup comes in. No, I think they've done really well. The 2 things that I didn't quite grasp, or did, I guess, a little bit, but they signed Bob Tunyon from the Packers, which I love as a little bit of a, stick 'em one. Hey, we got your tight end. Tight end wasn't a huge need for the Bears, but having 2 tight ends and Tunyon's a good blocker wasn't a bad thing. I was sad to lose David Montgomery, though, and I want to flip to that for the Lions. For you, I was sad to lose Montgomery. I'm excited to get Deontay Foreman. He played really well after the McCaffrey trade last year in Carolina. Kind of surprised he only got $3 million, although running backs have not been getting a ton of money lately, which is interesting in the shift in the NFL. Running backs.
Yeah, so the money is definitely going to quarterbacks, right? So like the quarterback market is, insane. And the running back market is like you don't have to pay for a running back, or you shouldn't pay for a running back. I was happened to be in Detroit the day after that signing, and all of the Detroit radio was like, what are they doing? Why do you pay for a running back? You don't need to pay for a running back. Not that I think that the David Montgomery deal is bad at any stretch. From any angle you look at it, I think it's a good move. There's a lot of comparisons in the Michigan media, sports media, for saying Montgomery is basically Jamal Williams, but 2 years younger. And Jamal Williams had done amazing things last season and was a huge part of the culture. The other part is this is thunder and lightning. DeAndre Swift and David Montgomery make a fantastic double-headed monster in the backfield. And I don't think the Lions are necessarily done. There was a lot of Bijan Robinson chatter about maybe him being available at some point in the draft and the Lions taking him. Maybe they don't need to now because of this move. Maybe they do. So there's, it's not, if you have the draft capital and you can get assets that are going to make your team better and keep everybody fresh and healthy, do it, right? So that's cool. And the Lions have made some other great free agent signings as well. We've done a lot to make our secondary a lot better, which was a point of weakness last year. Excuse me, we've re-upped on a couple of guys that we shouldn't have let go, like Kaminsky and Bugs, to name a few. So I was talking to a friend yesterday, and we're both like, okay, dude, we got 5 weeks until the draft, and we got like 5 months until the season. It's hard to not be super giddy as a Lions fan. And then I was like, at the same time, let's temper our expectations because we've been burned before. So so very, very happy right now. And I'm eager to see what happens with the draft. Again, with the Bears moving from 1 to 9, that gives them, hopefully, I would imagine, based on how I project the draft to maybe fall out. I do agree with you that offensive line is a weak spot for the Bears. So a good offensive lineman, a really good offensive lineman, should be available at that 9 spot if that's where the Bears stay and if that's what they want to go after. The Lions being at 6 and 18 now have the ability to kind of maybe flip those. And the crazy part is, and I feel like this is more so a thing of the last 3 years. Man, draft picks, teams are not valuing draft picks maybe as I think that they should. When you think of what Chicago got in return, and then granted they did give up the number 1 overall pick for this year. So if Carolina is going, hey, yes, we're going with CJ Stroud, and they're like, it's okay for us to pay this year's 1, next year's 1, and all of these other assets because Stroud is our guy. I just feel like years past, and it goes back to, I think, Jared Goff being drafted by the Rams, and there were other deals that I saw this week that I can't recall by memory, where just teams in the top 3 moved. The Trey Lance deal comes to mind. So yeah, kind of interesting, kind of crazy. The emphasis on having a franchise quarterback is clearly the current path of the NFL.
Absolutely, and and that was. If anybody wondered if the Bears thought Fields was their guy, this move solidified it. Clearly he is. Otherwise, you stay at 1 and you take Bryce Young, you take CJ Stroud, you do something there. They clearly see Fields. I love that a couple of days later, Fields, Mooney, Claypool, and Moore were all at the Bulls game together. So they're already trying to build some cohesion. I like what the Bears are putting together after a just dismal season. I flip back and forth between saying they're still not going to be great next year. But if they could even flirt with contention, that would be a really good step in the right direction. But then I look at how they're putting things together, and I'm like, that NFC North is going to be a little bit wide open. If Aaron Rodgers is headed to the Jets.
He is. It might not happen today, tomorrow, or I heard something where he doesn't have to. That move does not need to happen until June. And if they don't do it until June, there's some cost savings. So that's kind of crazy in my mind.
I think that would only be if they cut him and they're looking at trading him. Maybe it is different if they trade him post June 1 too.
Yeah, I think there is something with the contract, which is really weird, right? So there would be a savings on the Jets end if they're like, yeah, let's agree in principle, but not do the deal until June 1, which would also be really funny because then I imagine there's some OTAs in May, and it would be great to have him get in there with people, even though he's having the Jets sign all of his buddies. The wish list. I'm sure you heard about the wish list.
Oh yeah.
Which again is not a want list; it's a wish list. So I guess we should be clear. We can all have wish lists.
Yeah, I love that he didn't feel like he had enough weapons in Green Bay, and then he's like, "I want to go to New York, and I want to take everybody I had in Green Bay with me." Um, like, what are you doing, dude?
I
And
heard an
I'm sorry,
interview.
there's two guys in New York: Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore. Like, really good young wide receivers. Garrett Wilson was Offensive Rookie of the Year. Elijah Moore didn't get used very much last year, which is a little weird after he had a good rookie year. Lazard's a nice 3 to go with that. Fine, that signing made some sense, but Randall Cobb is like 104. Like, I know they're best buddies. I get it. You know what it reminds me of? And here's a tie-in. It's like the Hogan Beefcake thing. Like everywhere Hogan went, Beefcake went behind him. Like Randall Cobb comes tagging along behind Aaron Rodgers, and apparently Mercedes Lewis, who is 38 years old at tight end. And I'm not even like throwing a funny number like 104 with Randall Cobb. He's 38, and that's not old in the real world, but that's getting barely old to be a receiver in the NFL.
And you know what Aaron Rodgers would say? He'd say, "Let me tell you something, brother.
Right.
I need my guys coming with me."
Well, he's in his hobbit hole for 4 days deciding what he's doing, and I don't know, that guy.
I heard an interview Wednesday. They said this analyst, and it's a New York media analyst, so maybe it's a little skewed. He said Rodgers goes to the Jets with no other changes. Granted, and there will be changes. They are the second best team in the AFC.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. But
Yeah,
that's insane, dude. That's
right.
So insane.
I'm sorry. Chiefs, Bengals, Bills. Let's just start there. And I think the Dolphins are continuing on the upswing. Right there's 4, just without me even looking at a list or thinking at all on the AFC side. I do think it opens up the NFC North, though. The Lions are going to be, continue to be improved. The Vikings are the Vikings. I think they're paper champions from last year. I don't think they were that good. And the Bears seem on the upswing, and that's not just totally my homerism, but they're making moves right now, looking at what they've done so far, and they've still got like 10 draft picks, and more can happen in free agency because they still got more money to spend there. They're going to be much improved. And the crazy thing is they have Carolina's number 1 next year, and Carolina doesn't look like they're going to be much better next year. Based on at least the signings they've made. They've got, they're going to have a rookie quarterback, all of that. But I'm excited for the next few years of the Bears. I think they could, if they do this right, and so far it feels like they're doing it right. Proof will be in the pudding on the field, but they could be a team to reckon with.
And wasn't their GM a player like 4 years ago? Just like 4 years ago? Not
long ago, yeah. And he was an offensive lineman, so he understands like the importance of the offensive line, right?
Yeah.
So no, wouldn't it be crazy if it becomes for a little while here the Detroit and Chicago battle for the NFC North, like the two teams that have kind of been the patsies of that division for the last number of years. It'd be fun if that became the battle instead of Green Bay, Minnesota, which it's been for far too long, as far as you and I feel.
Sign me up, baby. I'm down.
Yep, that'd be fun. So, yeah, and I know, I don't know if Annette's listening right now. I don't see a 1, but I also know that doesn't always update. The Eagles are going to be good, too. They had this really weird, like, they were releasing Darius Slay. Now he signed an extension. I don't know what was going on there. Miles Sanders is gone, but they got they got a different running back, and I just lost who it was that they signed. But
Miles Sanders.
No, Sanders left.
He went to Carolina.
He went right. Oh, Carolina. But I want to say the Eagles had a replacement, and Rashad Penny. That was who they signed. Rashad Penny, who, as long as he can stay healthy, is very good. Yep. And Annette is listening, and she just said Penny right about the same time there. So yeah, I think Penny's good if he can stay healthy. So the Eagles are going to be loaded too for Annette, and we'll see what happens. It'll be fun. Like you said, about 5 months away from camp, little less than probably 5.5 from opening day for the NFL. So it'll be fun. Well, something that's coming a lot faster is Wrestlemania weekend. And you and I obviously are watching the build and or reading about the build if we can't, catch Raw and SmackDown and all of that. It seems like there are more matches still to be announced for Wrestlemania. Obviously, I think everybody knows Sammy and Kevin versus the Usos is coming.
Did you watch Raw this week? Because I know the main event was Sikoa versus Owens, no DQ. I imagine that forwarded the storyline. I didn't watch Raw, so I'm just wondering, like, if you did watch Raw, if you read about it more than I read about it, which I didn't read about it. So anything you would have read would have been more than me.
Yeah, I've seen about the first half of Raw. I've read about it and scored it because it's my week to score in our wrestling fantasy wrestling league. There's the first mention of that this week. We need a counter for that, I swear. I mean, it did. The Usos, got involved in that. Owens had been very clear that he did not want anybody to help him. He didn't want Cody to help him. He didn't want Sammy to help him. In fact, he, in a promo earlier in the night, which I did see, said, I told you guys I don't want your help. Do not come out. And they didn't. So I think that helps lead towards Sammy or Cody talking to Kevin Owens at some point and going, you told us not to help and we didn't. How'd that work out for you? Kind of thing. And leading to eventually Kevin accepting the help or embracing Sammy or whatever. I'm kind of thinking that's got to happen next week, because that gives you still a week until WrestleMania week. I don't know if you want to hold it off until WrestleMania week. I've been okay with it not happening yet, because if you do that too early and then it's too far until the actual tag match, I don't know what you do with the story. So, but I'm thinking it's got to be next week. It could be the week of Mania, because here's the thing. It's nobody's thinking that isn't happening at Mania. Nobody's saying, well, I'm not going to Mania because that hasn't been announced yet.
I'm selling my tickets.
Right.
Yeah.
It could be a last, I haven't heard the word sold out for WrestleMania. I imagine they still have tickets. Once it gets announced, it could sell a few more tickets where they're like, all right, now that they've officially said it, yep, I'm in. I want to go see that. It could. I know back in Dallas, I want to say it was Dallas, the last time I went to a Mania, our good friend John and I had made an agreement that Kevin and Sammy could have headed towards that Mania, but they ended up not doing it. In fact, I want to say that was Sammy and Shinsuke. No, that wouldn't have made sense.
No, that was that weekend. That was that takeover.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't remember why we thought maybe Kevin and Sammy would be on Mania then. But
well, I want to say, weren't they in the ladder match still?
They were in a ladder match. Yep, that is right.
Yeah.
And we had said if it was going to be one-on-one, those two, then we would go to Mania. And if it wasn't, then we were going to watch it on the WWE network at the hotel.
Which was an awesome time. But I still have a little bit of lamentation from my own life. Regret is not the word I'll use, because I don't have regrets. Being so close to Mania and having there be tickets available that day, I should have pulled the trigger and gone.
I hear you. It's the experience is fun. I'm now at a point where the getting in and getting out with 100,000 people is not fun. I don't like that. But the experience of I'm glad I've been to the WrestleManias I've been to, and who knows, maybe I'll go again someday. But yeah, the experience is a good time. But so it seems like they're going to be adding that yet to WrestleMania. It's still. Do you think it is more likely? Rey Mysterio was announced as the first Hall of Famer. You've probably seen that. And they've announced then this week on the Bump, which is a weird place to announce it. Ric Flair announced that he'll be inducting the Great Muta into the WWE Hall of Fame, which is awesome. And please tell me that whatever deal he signed for this includes action figures. Let Mattel make Muta action figures, please. I want Muta action figures. And I mean, talk about a guy who's toyetic. Goodness gracious, you could pump out a Muta every 3 months and have a different look and not get through them for a really long time. Anyways, he's been a want for me for a long time on the action figure front. So I'm hoping I know going into the WWE Hall of Fame does not necessarily mean you've signed a deal that includes action figures. There've been lots of Hall of Famers. The Rock and Roll Express is the big one. I think when they went in, everybody kind of felt like, and that I listen to or watch in the figure world, like, oh, that means we're getting Rock and Roll Express action figures, and we haven't gotten those yet. So clearly that's not an automatic when you go to the Hall of Fame, but obviously some deal between WWE and Muta being struck for the Hall of Fame. If they can strike some other deals, like I said, would love that. But Ray is what I wanted to talk about. You know, they're clearly continuing the Dominic and Ray build. Do you think it's Dominic and Ray at Mania, or do you think the other match I've been thinking, and I think I might have mentioned this on the show last week, is Dominic and Damian Priest versus Ray and Santos?
I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't go Ray and Dominic at Mania. And in the same way that like they can treat this kind of like they've been treating the Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus Usos, like they've almost been going on as long, you know, in terms of the story. Did Dominic turn back at Clash of the Castle, right? So it's almost like if they don't do that, it means that they don't have the confidence in Dominic, but I think that they should at this point, especially with his dad being the other side of the ring.
Right. If anybody's going to take care of him and make him look like $1 million, it's going to be Dad.
Yeah.
Somebody, Sean Ross Sapp, I think, on something I was listening to the other day, their thought was, so Conan is going to be the one inducting Ray into the Hall of Fame on Friday night. And their thought was Dominic attacks Conan, and that leads to the match, Ray finally saying, fine, I'll fight you probably Sunday at WrestleMania. Interesting if they do that, to wait that long and literally the day before WrestleMania begins to make it. Again, I don't think it's a match that anybody's like, well, I'm not going if it's not happening. So I think they could add it, and it's not like a match out of left field. Everybody's kind of watching the building going, well, it's got to happen, right? But I think it'll be interesting. It would be the first Dominic Mysterio match I would give a crap about since his debut, because I think his character is actually working. As ridiculous as the whole prison Dom thing is, it's supposed to be ridiculous. Like, he's getting decent heat. You know, everybody hates him because his girlfriend is Rhea Ripley. Yeah, I don't know. They were also talking on the podcast I was listening to yesterday of, you know, what if they had Rhea put, is it Aaliyah? I think Ray's daughter, who was in the storyline with, that ended up with Dominic, you know, debuting. What if they had Rhea put her through a table? And remember, of course, Aaliyah was dating in storyline Murphy at that point, who is now Buddy Matthews, who in real life is now dating Rhea. So could there be a wink and a nod? You know, they couldn't come right out and say it because obviously Buddy Matthews sort of busy on the other channel.
Sort of busy,
sort of signed. 1/3 of the Trios champs. Darn it. Even though I really love that House of Black are the Trios champs, but yeah, that it would be interesting. That would be a way to further the story. I'm trying to think if there's anything else they haven't announced for Mania. There's a lot of speculation right now around Bray Wyatt. Apparently, there's some sort of physical issue. It's not an injury; it's an illness of some sort. It sounds like from what they're saying. So I don't know if he and Bobby Lashley are happening. You know, he hasn't been on the last few weeks. They've not built since the Muscle Man dance, and that wasn't him. That was, you know, just an edited video. They've kind of kept Lashley off. I certainly hope that if it can happen for whatever reason, whatever's going on with Bray, I hope he gets well soon. You know, whatever that physical, you know, there's rumors around mental health and stuff, and I'm not going to speculate on that kind of stuff because that's not fair to Bray Wyatt as a human being. You know, maybe it's COVID. I don't know. You know, who knows? Whatever it is, I hope he gets better soon as a human being, first and foremost. And secondly, I'd like to see the match at Mania at this point. But I hope Lashley gets something to do at Mania if it can't happen with Bray for whatever reason, because Bobby Lashley's been great.
Uncle Howdy, dude. Uncle Howdy. Let's go.
Right. And I'm wondering if they're holding off on, because that would be an easy pivot, you would think. But I wonder if they're holding off on that because if Bray isn't going to be back for some time, they just kind of want to let that, sit to the side. Anything else they're going to add that I'm forgetting that you're like, oh, it seems like, yeah, this is going to happen that hasn't been announced?
Well, so you want to know something crazy for me? Like, I feel like I have no clue what's happening at Mania, even though I know what's happening at Mania. and it literally is only because I didn't watch Raw this week. Like, I feel like because I've been watching WWE so intentionally and like just taking 3 hours out this week thus far makes me feel like I'm out of the loop. And I'll say this: last week I watched all of Raw and all of SmackDown. I had the fortune of my wife being able to get away at a women's retreat, and because that happened, when I woke up Saturday morning, I had no one to answer to other than my kids, which is easy, and nothing to really do other than like monitor the laundry, keep the house semi-clean, and watch wrestling. So I was able to watch SmackDown and Rampage back to back Saturday morning, and I can't tell you before last Saturday, the last time I watched SmackDown all 2 hours unencumbered.
Yeah, that's been a while even for me. Usually I catch it in chunks and eventually get through it. Raw is tougher to get through because it's 3 hours. It's just more time, and it's at the beginning of the week where Friday night, even if I don't usually catch SmackDown on Friday night, but over the weekend I can usually chunk out 2 hours, even if it's in 20-minute segments. And actually it's more than that I chunk out. Okay, so it must be that it's the weekend because I chunk out 3 hours because I usually get Rampage watched as well. But Raw's kind of been
at all this weekend because we got March Madness going on. So
right.
I love wrestling, but it's I also really love March Madness.
Yeah, and I saw this morning 0.006% of brackets are still perfect after yesterday.
And one day, I know.
Right.
Well, let me tell you this: my passion never wavers on March Madness. But like I used to be in like every single pool possible. I don't do that anymore. But our family has a competition, and it's heated, it's fun, everybody gets down with it. Wouldn't you know, the 11-year-old is in the lead after day one.
Nice. I am not as passionate about college basketball as you are. I used to love it, and it's fallen off the wayside for me. It's not that I don't enjoy it, it's just time, right? So I literally have not watched a single college basketball game this year. Not one. So
there's an alternative universe where Jim Fields is a huge college basketball fan.
Right. I used to, like, when I did my picks, I didn't know all 64 teams, obviously, but I'd have some knowledge of at least the top teams in each region, and really think about well, their defense is really good, but these guys can shoot the three, and all this. And I am now that person who's like, I've heard of that school, I'm picking them. So I don't know. I'm in the one pool I'm in, which is simply a free one to win free food for a year at a restaurant I like. I'm in tied for third. I got 12 yesterday out of 16. So 14 was the lead. Few people did pick Furnham. So good job to those who did. Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah. Well, speaking of food, my wife's in a competition at her school. The principal is the facilitator, and basically anyone can participate, but like however many people are in there. And at the end, your only commitment is if you don't win, you have to buy lunch for the winner at some point before the end of the school year. So like if there's 20 people in, that winner is getting 19 lunches, which is pretty cool, right? Well, right. Wednesday night, she's like, hey, I got to get this in tomorrow. Can we work on this together? And I was like, yeah, don't do your family bracket. Like, dude, let's work on this together. She's like, I really appreciate your perspective. So we walked through it, and you want to know who we picked to win?
Tell me.
Arizona.
Oh,
exactly. So yesterday, I wasn't able to watch that game live. So I texted her when I found out that they lost, and I'm like, "Hey, Arizona lost." She's like, "Well, I guess I'm buying someone a lunch." And I wanted to be like, "Well, you probably were going to be buying someone a lunch anyway." And again, right. that's not, we're talking $12 to $15, big deal, right? But to be out on day one, Yikes.
It hurts when you lose. I was telling somebody yesterday, it hurts when you lose your Elite Eight, one of your Elite Eight or something on day one, but it really hurts when you lose champ on day one. That's ouch. I have Kansas winning it all just because.
Same with my son. So maybe he'll win the family pool for the first time ever.
There you go. And it's a milkshake on the line, right? Isn't that?
So we have actually a plaque, and your name gets
That's right.
engraved and then placed on the plaque. And then then there's a milkshake or a drink of your choice. I mean, usually it's a milkshake.
Nice. Well,
Ring of Honor Supercard of Honor is coming up, and
let's talk about that.
We kind of teased that out a little bit. Again, we're 2 weeks away from that right now as we record, and there's only one match on the website, but I think after last night, there's 2 matches formally announced, and we kind of can see the breadcrumbs. And there were some challenges based on. I just did a quick look over at Wrestling Observer's kind of front page, and 2 other champions laid out challenges last night, I think, by way of the TV episode. So I guess let's maybe tackle the 5 matches we think are probably locks, and then maybe what else we may see. So I'm going to start world title. Claudio versus Kingston, not official, but that's kind of where everything seems to be leading. Pure title, Wheeler Yuta challenged Shibata last night, and that's going to be pretty amazing. Athena challenged Yuka Sakazaki, and Yuka Sakazaki's fine, and Athena has apparently been great. Like I think the second week of Ring of Honor TV, like they said, like she had like one of if not the best women's match in the history of Ring of Honor, all eras. And again, I didn't see it clearly, so I couldn't give you my 2 cents, but that's pretty cool. It's high praise. The Reach for the Sky ladder match, which the titles are vacated, and the first team in there is Lucha Bros. I would have liked to have had a couple more teams being added. I think based on what you've seen with the results, there will easily be teams added like Aussie Open, Seidel and Christopher Daniels,
Top Flight,
the Kingdom, things like that.
I think it'd be interesting to see how many teams. Do they go 5, 6?
Yeah. How many is too many, right? Because the 6 teams would be 12 guys. That can be like really busy. Like what did we have with the Face of the Revolution ladder match had 8 guys, and really they only had 6 because Kingston and Ortiz left pretty early in that match. So 6 was a great number. 8 probably was okay too. We didn't really see 8 much, but then you add 10 or 12 to that's a really busy. How does everyone get a chance to shine? And then that 5th match. What was I going to say? It's the TV title: Samoa Joe versus Mark Briscoe.
Right, and they do seem to be building to a 6-man title match as well. Having read the spoilers, I think I know where that's headed. Which would make sense. You need to do that. So, and the 6-man title is currently on the Embassy. So, yeah, I mean, that sounds like a really fun Supercard of Honor. I know I kind of made a face and a noise at Athena Yuka Sakazaki, and it's only because Yuka Sakazaki is good. She just hasn't been presented as anything special. And it's a presentation issue more than anything. And so for her to be the challenger at Supercard of Honor is a little bit like for me. Athena and Willow had a really good match. I know I would have been more excited for a Willow rematch or something else. The name that keeps coming to my head is Chris Statlander, but I don't know that she's ready to come back yet. I mean, I know she had ACL reconstruction 6 or 8 months ago now. So, I don't know why her name comes to my head, but that would have been really fun. Maybe because I'm a Statlander fan and I'm excited for whenever she is able to come back. There was a lot of rumors that eventually she was slated originally before the knee injury to be the one to beat Jade Cargill for the TBS title. I think that would have been really big for her. I don't know if that's true or not, but I read it. It's a thing that's out there. I think she would have been a good person to be that person because you need somebody that win needs to mean something when Jade Cargill loses. So Chris would have been good on that and still could be. Assuming Jade gets past Ty Valkyrie, of course. So, but going back to Ring of Honor, that's a loaded show. Like the Reach for the Sky ladder match, that's going to be crazy. Claudio and Eddie have a 15-year history of hating each other, or at least in storyline hating each other. I don't know how much of that is real, not a real, or maybe they once had an issue and now they buried it. I don't know, but I mean, so that's going to be really fun. Yuta Shibata, I love Shibata, so give me Shibata anywhere. But Yuta Shibata and Pure Rules, wow, that'll be great. Joe and Briscoe, just the emotion for Mark Briscoe, and then it's Samoa Joe and a Briscoe. Like, what is more Ring of Honor than Samoa Joe versus a Briscoe? That screams Ring of Honor. I think I mentioned this on the show before. When they first announced Supercard of Honor, I was like, yeah, I'll probably buy it. We'll see what they build, because I know they got these TV tapings. Yeah, I'm ordering it. Like, they'll have my money for Friday night.
Well, here's the crazy part for me, at least. So it appears, I think, based on what the tapings look like, next week, Thursday's episode, so the 23rd, will be the last episode in the can. So do they run something live on Thursday the 30th somewhere, or is it just like a 0 hour preview show?
I think that's a good question. I got to be honest. I don't want them to do that. The preview show idea. Like, you've just started back with your television 4 weeks ago at that point. I don't want them already to have a recap show. Like, it can be a heavily recap show. Maybe they tape, I don't know, 4 to 6 matches somewhere here. They haven't taped anything at the tapings that I've heard of for Ring of Honor. But if they were going to do anything live, you figure they would have announced that by now, because you got to sell some tickets somewhere, unless you're doing it in Orlando, and even then I would think you would have announced it by now. And Orlando is not really close to LA, where you're doing a show the next day, so that wouldn't make a ton of sense.
Logistical nightmare.
Right. It'd be one thing if WrestleMania was in Florida, you could put that on on sale a week before and probably do fine, but it clearly not. And not to mention, a lot of the people who might come to the Orlando show, if you were due to Universal, if you were going to do a live thing on that Thursday, some of those people might be on their way to LA because they might be going to WrestleMania weekend, and they might have tickets for Supercard of Honor too. So that's a little dangerous. Yeah, I'm curious what they're planning to do the 30th. I have that same feeling, because they seemed to have taped 4 2-hour shows, or roughly 2-hour shows, and they've aired them as roughly 2-hour shows. At first I thought, well, maybe they were going to shorten a couple of the shows and so you could stretch it out. But it doesn't, nothing seems that way. I haven't gone back and matched it up, scene for scene or anything on the reports, but yeah, I think it's gonna be interesting. Like I said, I just feel like if they do that the day before, it's a little bit flat. But I don't watch it anyways, so I guess it won't affect my viewing.
Yeah, my wondering in that question that I posed was like if they said, "Hey, have you considered signing up for Honor Club yet?" Well, we're actually going to do our first live streamed Honor Club event right before Supercard of Honor. Join us, Thursday night at 8:00, as with the final bricks in the wall for Supercard of Honor come together.
I think that'd be really cool if that was what happened. Yeah. But I feel like, gosh, if they're going to do it, they got to announce it now, real soon.
Exactly. So Tony Khan, as great as he's been and is and could be still, probably needs to think about who does he want to bring on. Not that I don't know what I don't know. So maybe he has other people in the mix, but in terms of him being the mastermind solely behind creative and the directive behind that all, we're seeing maybe some of the holes in the cheese.
Well, and yeah, he's got to ask for help, I feel like. And maybe he has some help. I don't know. And now there's talk of another 1-hour AEW show as well. Maybe on Saturdays at 6:05. I think I heard they had trademarked Collision as a name, which may or may not, of course, be for that. But Rampage feels missable lots of weeks. So I don't know that I need another hour of potentially missable. I don't even watch Dark and Dark Elevation. So, and maybe they condense some of that. Maybe Dark Elevation goes away, or maybe they both go away if they have this other show. But yeah, Tony, get yourself. Although from the sounds of it, and I listen to one post show for Ring of Honor on the Fightful stream, and I really enjoy it. And they're loving Ring of Honor. I haven't heard their review of last night's show yet. That'll get listened to on my way, or start to get listened to on my way to work here this morning. But it seems like people are enjoying Ring of Honor. There seems to be some excitement building around Ring of Honor again, which is really cool. And you and I have talked long hours on this podcast and in other venues around our history with Ring of Honor, and literally Ring of Honor being the reason for our friendship. That's how we met. So I'm excited for that. And I'm excited that Supercard of Honor this year, there's some build to it. Last year it was just kind of a show because Tony had just bought it and, all of that. So I'm excited that Ring of Honor is back, and there's episodic things happening in just the Ring of Honor universe, not in AEW, in just the Ring of Honor universe. I wish I had the time to devote to watch Ring of Honor still. And maybe I would find the time if it was more easily accessible. I know it's easily accessible. I can pay the $10 and I can have the app. But if I know it's going to be hard for me to find the time, then it's hard for me to lay out the money.
Yeah.
It just is. I mean, to be fair, I'm already paying $5 a month for Fight Plus, and I don't see half of what I'd like to that GCW and others are doing on Fight Plus. But I jumped in on the $5. I think there was a show I wanted to watch, and right after I jumped in on the $5 was when they announced they were going up to $8 a month. But if you were in at the $5 level, you were good, and you were staying at $5. So I was like, well, okay, I'm going to stay subscribed even if I don't watch it for a month or two, because I'm saving money in the long run.
And if you hear something, you can go back and like we talked about last week, Zayn Vikingo. I hadn't watched that show, and I still haven't watched that match, but because of your recommendation, I'm sure there'll be a day where I'm like, oh, I can go back and watch that match.
Right. And, for me, I haven't looked at my calendar yet, but like I said last week, I wanted to see Vikingo versus Commander. You broke the news to me because I hadn't seen it yet that they've actually announced that match for the Atlanta show, I think it is. If I'm busy and can't watch the Atlanta show live, I will go back and seek that match out.
And then even isn't Mania weekend, don't we have Kota Ibushi versus Mike Bailey or something like that?
That is at Bloodsport. Yep.
So,
and I mean, and they haven't even announced Ibushi's match yet for Spring Break, which I'm guessing is going to be Joey Janela, which doesn't excite me greatly because I'm just not the biggest Joey Janela guy. I think he's a creative guy. I don't know. He doesn't click for me for whatever reason. Nothing against the guy. He just doesn't click for me. But Bushi's coming in WrestleMania weekend. Bailey's got a million matches. Ospreay had some matches, but now this shoulder injury, I'm a little worried. He's pulled out of the New Japan Cup. So I'm a little, because Ospreay Bailey was going to be at that Impact show, Impact in the Multiverse, or Impact New Japan, the Multiverse, whatever it is. And I that was not on my schedule as far as what I'm thinking, kind of looking at how do I think I'm going to watch what I want to watch over that weekend. But I got to tell you, Will Ospreay versus Mike Bailey makes me wonder if I should figure it out into my schedule. So, but I don't know now with Ospreay's injury. Hopefully it's just a few weeks and, he'll be able to do Mania weekend. He just needed to not do the tournament where he'd have match after match, kind of quickly. So we'll see. We've got just a few minutes left. You've seen some of NXT. And I think are aware maybe of other things. The NXT women's title is what I wanted to just really quickly bring up. So Roxanne had her match with Meiko Satomura a week ago. She fainted in another Shawn Michaels greatest hits of his angles redo in NXT after the match. And now they announced on Tuesday that she hadn't been medically cleared yet, and they would possibly have to strip her of the title and declare a new champion. And so they've set up some qualifying matches for a ladder match at Stand and Deliver. And Zoe Stark and Gigi Dolan have qualified thus far for that match. And according to the silhouettes on the match graphic, it looks like there'll be 2 more who will qualify for that match. So maybe a 4-way ladder match, or here's my thought, Tom. Do you tell me what you think? I think they're going to qualify 4 ladies for the match, and then at Stand and Deliver, Roxanne's going to come out as the 5th. Everything I've heard is she's fine. This is all story. Meltzer said there's something else they're covering for, but nobody.
What's it with the rule of 5 in NXT? Because isn't Wesley going to have a 5-way for the North American title?
Yeah, but just not a ladder match, just a 5-way match, apparently.
Yeah,
and he's handpicking his opponents, which that's interesting. Can he pick Nash Carter? I don't know. Is that a thing? So it's confusing to me. They possibly have to strip her of the title, so we're going to do a ladder match to crown a new champion. Well, are you crowning a new champion or are you not? You haven't said that you're stripping her of the title yet. It's just a little bit weird the way they've worded things in NXT. Is that fair?
It is fair, and it's weird, but it's also okay. I'm excited for Stand and Deliver again at 1:00 on that Saturday of that weekend. Probably doesn't work for my schedule, but thankfully Peacock will be on demand. So again, I don't even know how I'm going to watch WrestleMania yet, but I know I will watch it. So,
well, I have figured out, and maybe I shared this, and not that anybody needs to know my schedule, but I'm off that weekend. My wife has to work that weekend, so Saturday during the day we'll be catching up on, and I'm planning on taking Friday off work. So Friday and Saturday we'll be catching up on the Thursday and then Friday shows. I'll watch Supercard of Honor live probably, but there'll be other Friday shows that are, because they're in California, some of their shows are at kind of not ideal times for me. As that goes, especially those later shows. Yeah, Annette just said, Meltzer said Roxanne is dealing with a real-life medical issue, thus the cover story of her fainting. He's vague beyond that. Yeah, he was very vague beyond that. Sean Rassap says it's all story, so I don't know. Who do you believe? But I think WrestleMania actually, and this might be a mistake, Tom, but here's what my plan is. Because my wife has to work all day Saturday, I'll be watching wrestling all day Saturday. I will admit feeling a little bit of guilt that if I watch wrestling all day Saturday, she comes home at 7:00 at night, and then I disappear to the man cave downstairs and don't see her until, Sunday night when she comes home and I'm watching WrestleMania again. So my intent right now is I'm not going to watch WrestleMania Saturday live. And then I'm going to get up Sunday and she'll be at work all day Sunday. And I'm going to watch WrestleMania Saturday, Sunday during the day. And then I'm going to watch WrestleMania Sunday that evening. It's going to make for a long day of WrestleMania. I don't know. Could be a mistake. We're going to find out WrestleMania weekend.
And that's a good segue. So I know we were talking before we hit record today, kind of previewing upcoming recording schedule and when we've got 4 big events that we're going to have in our Pick'em competition, ROH, Supercard of Honor, Stand and Deliver, and then in both nights of WrestleMania. So,
and our last event of this 6-month segment of head-to-head appears to have been announced this past week as well. We'll talk about it in future weeks, but Forbidden Door 2 coming up the end of June.
Super awesome. So we'll definitely be back next Friday, a week from today. And on that day, we probably will start making some of those picks and previews early, even though every card, every match might not be totally fleshed out. We'll do the best that we can, and we're being mindful of time. And then we'll have a show the week of the 27th that we'll record probably early, and then maybe release late. That's kind of the tentative plan for now. We will not be together on the 31st, so no live show on the 31st heading into that weekend. So we'll probably end up picking some stuff without full cards, and that's okay. I mean, Jim doesn't need any reason to get back into the competition.
No, not at all. I don't need extra matches to be able to pick, so we actually have a chance. I don't know who he is. There's a mouse in my pocket. Well, we're up against the time frame that we have this morning. That was a rambling show, I know, but you know what? Hopefully you had fun just kind of listening to 2 friends talk about what's going on in wrestling, and that's really what this show is anyways. Pro
football and March Madness.
And NFL and March Madness, and
And hidden Christmas presents.
And hidden Christmas presents. So we hit it all this morning here on Two Spot Monkeys. Everybody have a great weekend. There are 2 really fun GCW shows that are this weekend. Friday nights looks really good. I have to work all day Saturday, so it'd probably be Sunday before I get a chance. But I think I'm going to try to catch that Sunday during the day. I've got some time. So Nick Gage versus Masha Slamovich for the GCW World Title. I don't know. That could be really fun. Almost Hyde and Cardona. Yeah. Darn Maquizos, Los Maquizos lost the titles. But anyways, I can't even say their name right. But anyways, GCW has some shows. There's some other stuff going on. And then Mania is coming. So we'll be talking about it in the next few weeks. Tom, it's been a pleasure as always, my friend.
Absolutely. You have a great weekend. We'll talk to you soon.
Take care, everybody. We'll see you next week on Two Spot Monkeys Live.